So at the top here, I'll start with a tour of the site that we're at. So this is Western Boone County. We're just about 10 miles away from the Rockford area, but on the same ComEd grid that if you are a part of the ComEd grid in Chicago, Kankakee, Rockford, anywhere on the North Shore, you're on the exact same grid sharing all the same energy. If any of you are joining from central or southern Illinois, you're on the Ameren grid, but the process works the same. These community solar projects are being built connected to that grid. And what that means is that energy from fossil fuel plants, from nuclear plants, like for instance, the high voltage lines that we can see in the distance here are being replaced. We literally don't need to put that energy onto our grid. A little bit about this site. This is 15 acres. Most of these projects are about that size. You can see last year it was probably a soybean field. There's corn next to us now. And you can see that it's just row after row of solar panels, about 7,000 in total out at the site. And all of these panels are on what's called a single access tracker system. Panels are attached to the racking system here. They're able to turn during the day. So in the morning when they're working, they'll all be facing east, and they slowly turn during the day, face west in the afternoon, and then reset themselves. A really cool new technology that we're now seeing on almost all of these farms is that these are what are called bifacial solar panels. As you can imagine, most of the energy on these is produced on the top of the panel. That's how we think of solar panels working. Literally, the photons from the sun hit the solar panel and drive electrons into a circuit. For those electricity buffs, that's producing a DC current, a direct current. But these panels also produce energy from underneath. So if there's snow on the ground or even just the sunlight reflecting off the grass, produce energy here as well. That direct current that's produced by these solar panels is sent through inverters that turn it into an alternating current like we have on our grid, and then a transformer near the end of the system moves that up to the same voltage as the rest of our lines all across the ComEd area. One really cool thing I'll mention about this site and most of the sites in Northern Illinois is that there will be a pollinator-friendly ground cover on the ground here once the system is completed. So next year, not only will this be producing renewable energy, replacing fossil fuels on the grid, but it'll probably be one of the biggest new prairies in all of Northern Illinois. Well, with that kickoff.
John, I have a question.
Yeah.
One of our attendees asks what the shape of the site is. Is it a big rectangle or is it some other shape out there in the field?
Oh, that's a great question. This one is actually an L shape. I'll give you a little bit of a sense of that. You can see that it's a little narrower up closer to the road. It's actually set back about 200 feet from the road. So, you know, the neighbors probably won't barely even see it. But then it does turn into an L shape as you get further out and fills about 15 acres. It is really the nice thing about solar. You know, I'm a huge fan of wind, but when you put a wind tower up, you're gonna see it everywhere. Solar really can fit into the landscape like this. If you've got a big square, you can do that. We have other projects, you know, that just sort of fit into the landscape. This is about as flat as a site as you're ever going to see. We are blessed with a lot of flat ground here in Illinois, but these systems actually even can be on a slope as well. All right, well, I'll be jumping back in here throughout the webinar with Rachel, but let's go ahead and start the webinar.
All right, so we're all here to learn about community solar, but actually mainly we're here today to see the what's going out there in the field, which is fantastic. It's really exciting to watch that actually happen. But I'm going to take you through the normal webinar information, just for those of you that are new to this. And we're starting out by looking at this slide, which makes the point that you go solar in this way with community solar, and you don't need a roof. Most people think of solar, meaning you have to put panels on your own roof. Community solar, as John is showing you, is all out there in the field, and nobody has to have their own roof. They're subscribing to these panels out there in the field, and some of those panels, as I'll mention in a minute, are basically attributed to you, and you're going to get credit from those, the power that comes off of those panels. So the main takeaways that we have for you today are what I just said. You can live in a house, a condo, an apartment. All you have to do is have a ComEd bill and you're eligible to be part of this system. You're supporting new renewable energy that's going into the grid that, as John pointed out there, you can see right there on the site where the energy is going into the ComEd grid. It's new and it's going to be replacing hopefully some of the other non-renewable sources that ComEd uses to fill up the grid, to fill up their energy needs. For you, the subscriber, there are no upfront costs. There's no investment. You have no construction to deal with. You don't have to maintain anything. All of that is taken care of for you by Clearway out on the site. And after doing all that great stuff by being a supporter of all this, including jobs in Illinois, making all this happen, you're going to get a savings on your bill. And beside that, you don't have any, if you decide for whatever reason to cancel, there's no cancellation fee. So financially, it's a wonderful deal for everybody. And it's so easy to sign up for it. It takes just a few minutes, really. So overall, it's kind of a no-brainer. Hopefully everybody sees that, and it's just something that you're going to want to do quickly. So why are we doing this again? You know, one of the reasons, of course, is to try to mitigate climate change, reduce air pollution, reduce greenhouse gases. In Illinois, we use a lot of energy, and most of it right now is coming from nuclear and fossil fuels. Very little of it coming from renewable. The whole idea here is that we're increasing the use of renewables. We're pushing out those other sources. The legislature of Illinois has created laws that make this happen, including the Future Energy Jobs Act, which happened 4 years ago. And it's all geared towards scaling up renewable energy in Illinois. And by subscribing, you'll all be part of that system and that progress. So John's going to tell you about Trajectory here. He's the managing partner.
Well, it's a great place to be to talk about Trajectory Energy, because I really view our job as we're the boots on the ground. Today, that's quite literally. We have boots on here out in the field. Our role really starts with working with landowners of sites, just like this one here in Boone County. We work to figure out, Emily, can you spotlight us there? There we go. We work to figure out locations that would work for a site, and have sat at many a kitchen table with farmers like the ones across the road here to learn about what it would be like to host one of these sites. Sometimes, quite often, these sites are former agricultural fields, but we're working on projects on former landfills, which are a great place for solar. We're even working in central Illinois with a local cemetery association that had 20 extra acres they aren't going to be using for the next 50 years. From there, we work with local zoning officials to talk about how these projects fit into the landscape. So many counties in Illinois had never dealt with solar projects before, but just did a remarkable job responding to this new movement, to this new source of energy. I probably personally went to over 100 different zoning hearings over the last 3 years. Every one of those cases was approved, but you can see some of the results of those conversations here. This system is set back a little bit from the road, so the neighbors will be able to see it, but it's not too close. This system will have a pollinator-friendly ground cover. So our role is really to help bring these projects to life, but then we're also the boots on the ground when it comes to signing people up as subscribers to these systems. So we're so excited to be joined here today virtually and in person out here in Boone County by some of our partners. Emily, do you want to go to the next slide? And we'll talk about some of the great partners that we're working with. So let's start out here with Rachel. Rachel, do you want to talk a little bit about the partnership with Citizens Greener Evanston?
Absolutely. I'm super excited. Especially, first of all, I want to mention that I am a, a community solar subscriber myself, and was thrilled when I heard about the possibility that Trajectory would make a donation on behalf of each new subscriber. I had just completed my training with Leadership Evanston, which is a program of Evanston Community Foundation. So that's the first organization that came to mind. And so now when you sign up, Trajectory gives $75 to Evanston Community Foundation's Rapid Response Fund, which is about dealing, helping community members, especially our most vulnerable in the face of COVID-19 right now, to deal with those impacts. And the foundation has a matching grant, so that $75 becomes $150, which is very exciting to think about, being able to have that additional positive impact in addition to increasing renewable energy in Illinois. And Evanston, I know, actually we're a certified, the community is a certified wildlife habitat because we have so many yards and parks that are certified. So I think that would have special appeal to Evanstonians as well, the fact that there's going to be native and pollinator friendly plants out here. So.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Double impact in many ways. Well, we have some other great partners who are joining us virtually today. Jenny, do you want to talk about my hometown, Go Green Highland Park?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining in. This is very exciting. I just am amazed at the technology that's going on out there and really excited to help people in Highland Park switch to renewable energy. And we also have a great partnership going with Trajectory. John knows our area is his hometown, as he said. So we have partnered with our community foundation of Highland Park as well. So Trajectory is going to give us a $75 donation for every subscriber, and we're going to share 10% of that with our community foundation, because both organizations here are looking to improve the quality of life for everyone. So please subscribe and share. We have a webinar next week again. So any other Highland Parkers, you can pass this on and invite them to next week's webinar. And check us out at gogreenhp.org. Thanks, John.
Awesome. Thanks, Jenny. And one of the first partnerships that we had and some of the first webinars we ever did was with Go Green Wilmette. Beth, some of those first people, their panels are out here reserved and they'll be turned on soon. Do you want to talk a little bit about Go Green Wilmette?
Yeah, I'd love the chance to do that. I first started hearing about community solar 3 years ago, and I heard John do a presentation on it and realized right away that this would be a chance for people who can't put solar panels on their own roof to be involved in the renewable energy revolution. We all know it's incredibly important and we have to support it. So I was interested in something that was going to create new renewable energy in our state. It was going to create green jobs in rural areas where they're really needed. And I am so excited after 3 years of watching the state develop the program to see it up and running. Working with John with Trajectory and his team, and Clearway Energy has allowed us to make this an opportunity for Go Green Wilmette and all of the people in the ComEd area that want to be part of this. So John and Hal and Emily and the team there at Trajectory, thanks for all you're doing. I'm super excited to actually see the farm ready to be finalized and powered up. Thanks.
And one extra great part, if you are a subscriber in the Wilmette area or have come in through that program, we're actually donating in the Wilmette area $75 to the Wilmette Community Theater, just a really important organization and part of the community. Excellent. Hal, back to you.
Okay, well, thanks, John. And I just want to say a word about Clearway, because we've been talking about Trajectory. Trajectory has been doing, as John said, the work on the ground, and now we're doing these webinars and helping people understand the process and get signed up to community solar if they want to. The company that's actually building and owning and operating all these sites is Clearway, which is a national company, big company that's been doing this for a long time. They have lots of experience. If looking at this slide, you can see there on the left, they've got a huge amount of both solar and wind power that they own and operate. They're the largest community solar owner in the country. They're working these, what they call the roofless solar revolution, all over the country. And it's been really hot. John will tell you more some of the statistics about that, but it's really great here to be part of this, to be working partner directly with Clearway. One of the great things about Clearway is that they have a wonderful relationship through Trajectory and others with the people who own the land. So we know the people who own the land. They sort of become our partners and friends. And then when we get subscribers, we also spend a fair amount of time getting to know you, making sure you understand everything that's going on, so that you can really feel like you're part of, it's kind of like a co-op. everybody who's like-minded wants to do the good work of saving the planet and supporting the solar energy. So this is the company that you're working with. It's both Trajectory and Clearway together. It's a great partnership to be working with. And schematically, here's what's happening out there in the field with where John and Rachel are. Clearway is building these sites. As John said, they're eventually going to have about 15 sites. 100% of the power that comes off of those panels is going into this ComEd grid in Northern Illinois. Imagine the ComEd grid that supplies all of us energy like a giant swimming pool of electrons. And we're adding to that pool of electrons every day that the sun is shining when the systems are turned on. And as we do that, we're actually causing the other sources of energy like coal and natural gas to be pushed out because ComEd is required to use the solar energy first. So if it has enough solar energy, it doesn't need to turn on the coal and the natural gas, so that we're actually all helping to reduce the amount of non-renewables being used. As a subscriber, you're going to be getting credit for a certain number of panels and their production out there in the field. And every time your panels produce power, ComEd is going to know that, and they're going to reduce the price of your monthly utility bill. And so that's another benefit that you get by being a subscriber. Clearway will also charge you for that power, but Clearway is in a position where they can charge you less than the full amount of that power, 20% less. So you're always going to get every single month a guaranteed 20% discount on your bill from Clearway. So it adds up to less than you're paying now. When you add all those things together, it's still going to be a lower bill than you usually get.
So Hal, let's explain how this works from out here in the field. So when the sun is shining, photons from the sun literally just hit the panel here. And what they're essentially doing is knocking loose an electron. They're starting a circuit. The photon begins the process of driving those electrons in a circuit. Because these are what's called bifacial panels, when the sun hits the top of the panel, that happens, but also the bottom of the panel. Question we get a lot is, well, what if it's cloudy? The answer is, if you're outside and you can see anything at all, there's photons coming from the sun. Even if they come through the cloud, they're still producing energy on those days. That energy is in what's called direct current. The electrons are just flowing in one direction. All of these panels, the energy is collected in conduits that go underground here, and then over to a set of inverters that look like this. Those turn the energy into alternating current, which is how our energy works here in the United States on the ComEd grid. And then the energy flows to a big transformer that boosts the voltage up to the same voltage on the grid. So if you're a community solar subscriber, the electrons that get knocked loose here and begin their journey as part of our electric grid, we can't directly route your electrons to your light bulbs in your home, but these systems are metered. So we know exactly how many community solar credits, how many kilowatt hours were produced out here, and that will show up on your bill. So if it's a nice sunny month, might produce a little bit more energy out here in the field. When you get your bill, you'll actually see a few more credits. You'll definitely see more in July than you see in August. And those credits show up on your bill. And as Hal said, and we'll explain a little bit later, you're actually paying for those credits at a 20% discount. One question I see that we just got from Stephen, who asks, in Evanston, Evanston has a municipal aggregation program, which does also support renewable energy. But you can be a Clearway Community Solar subscriber and support putting more renewable energy on the grid here. Rachel, what other questions do you guys get from folks in Evanston?
I think that one is quite, I just actually got that similar question last night, and I pointed out to that person that our sustainability office at the city is promoting this program and this partnership. So they also see it as a value to and then the other big piece that I care deeply about in CGE is that intersection between sustainability and equity. And I feel like this is a really unique opportunity for people who aren't homeowners or can't afford to re-roof so that they can put on solar panels. And this is for anyone. And in fact, right, that fact that it lowers your bill is a real win. Super exciting.
And
Yeah,
if I
that's
could add to that a little bit, John, a couple of other benefits. There's so many benefits, it's hard to name them all, but one of them is that Clearway only uses Illinois workers to build and operate and maintain these sites. So we're really helping the local economy by providing new jobs in these rural areas where they're needed the most. And then in addition to that, the farmers who own this land and they lease this property to Clearway oftentimes are having a tough time making ends meet purely as farmers because the weather dictates sometimes whether they get a crop or not. And sometimes they have a very hard year. But if Clearway is giving these folks a lease payment every single month for the next 20 years, that's a significant stream of revenue for them so that they can oftentimes keep these farms in the family and continue to run as farmers. And we'll get a word from some of those farmers in a few minutes here too. Okay, so another piece of information, I think John mentioned it earlier when he was talking about who's subscribing to these panels. Earlier in the year, in May, Northwestern University signed up to 25% of this site and every site that Clearway is building. Huge amount of energy that is represented by that 25%. It's about a third of all Northwestern's energy use. So kudos to them for supporting community solar and Clearway in particular. So it's kind of a good endorsement of both of those things. So we really appreciate Northwestern's participation. Okay, so I would like to say just a few minutes about the bill. For those of you who haven't seen this before, subscribing to community solar means you're going to be seeing a ComEd bill the same as you've always seen to start out with. Here's the ComEd bill in a schematic form. It has three parts. If you look closely, it's got supply, it's got delivery, and it's got taxes and fees. Supply is the actual energy. Delivery is you're paying ComEd to maintain the wires and give you the energy. Taxes and fees are the government takeaways to be part of that. And in this bill, which is a hypothetical, we're going to call it a typical family of four or something like that, about $200. If you were to subscribe to community solar, you're going to see that same bill to start out with from ComEd every month. But now the panels that are allocated to you out there in the field are going to be producing new power every month. And Clearway is going to notify ComEd of how many kilowatt hours your panels produced. And ComEd is going to turn that amount of kilowatt hours into a certain amount of dollars and subtract that from your bill. That's your solar credit from your panels. So in this example, your ComEd bill will go from being $200 to $130 because they've taken the $70 worth of solar credits off of your bill directly. Then at the end of the process, Clearway is going to send you a bill to charge you for that power, but they're only going to charge you 80% of the $70 of the solar power credit. So in this case, you're only going to pay Clearway $56, where ComEd took away $70. So you're getting a benefit of 20% there that you wouldn't have ordinarily. And your total bill between the two of them will be $186. And that would be a typical month, and that would be repeated every single month. The guarantee of the 20% discount happens every single month as long as you're in the program. John, you can say a little bit about the sites that we're talking about in addition to the one that you're standing at?
So as you've hopefully heard, signing up for community solar is actually really simple, and there is a limited supply of them. Only so many of these projects are going to get built here in Illinois this year because of the legislation that passed back in 2016. This particular farm is the first one that's being completed by Clearway. It'll be online early next year, sending energy into the grid and credits onto your bill. But this project is actually already fully subscribed. The webinars we were doing back in March and April, those people were getting their spot reserved on these panels. But we work closely with Clearway to make sure that on a first come, first served basis, as you become a subscriber, we get you on the next project that's going to be completed. On occasion, you might be scheduled to be on a project, but if another one comes online faster, we'll actually even work with you to move onto that next system. And we'll keep you updated as these systems go through the process. But a number of these projects are getting built here in Boone County, one in DeKalb County, a couple down in Kankakee, and just in a few weeks, Clearway will begin construction on some projects in McLean, Williamson, and other central and southern Illinois counties as well. Emily, let's go to the next slide and learn a little bit about the families and the communities that these projects are helping. You know, as Hal alluded to, I think when you got on this webinar today, you probably were excited about the idea of supporting more renewable energy here on the grid. You probably were pleased to hear that you can do that and through a really simple process, become a subscriber and actually save on your utility costs. But what you maybe hadn't thought as much about is how these projects here in rural Illinois are actually supporting the local economy. Emily, play the video. Let's meet one of the families we're working with who's going to be hosting one of these projects.
We strongly believe in the solar projects simply for the good of the environment and the economy. It is not a sustainable model the way we are functioning now. You mentioned yourself, your daughter may never pump gas. Things have to change 30, 40, 50 years into the future in order for the population to survive and thrive.
So that was Greg and Diane, who live in Freeport, Illinois. Their family has owned that farm for generations, and they're really excited to be hosting a project out there. The project is going to be called Pretzel Solar. Any of you have ever driven through Freeport, you might be aware it's the pretzel capital of Illinois. And let's talk a little bit more about what it's like out at these sites. As Hal mentioned, rural Illinois right now is not in the best economic shape. The primary crops we have, corn and soybeans, are really at some pretty historic low prices, and farmers are sometimes only barely breaking even. Having a solar project on their land and receiving that rent payment can actually be a big benefit. As you can see, these projects really then do end up fitting in well into the landscape. This particular site that I'm showing you here, you can see how it's set back a little bit from the neighbors in the distance, but the panels really aren't any higher than the corn that's next to them. And you can see most of the panels are put off into the distance. So they fit in well with the landscape. They are helping the landowners like Greg and Diane out in Freeport, and they're creating jobs. Rachel and I have been seeing the crews out here today. We met a number of Illinois workers who are really excited to be working on solar now.
Right, and if you notice, if you look closely, you'll notice that it's very, very sunny out there where John and Rachel are, and Rachel is not only smiling, but she's squinting because there's so much sun. So now I'm going to tell you a little bit about your contract with Clearway and what it looks like to sign up. It's a really simple process, but it's helpful to kind of get an idea before you get involved with it to know what you're going to be looking at. First of all, you're going to see, well, along the way, not the first thing you'll see, but part of what you'll see is what's called the customer disclosure form. When the law was passed early on, the Illinois legislature created a new agency called the Illinois Power Agency, or the IPA, and they're kind of like a consumer protection agency in a way. So they created this form so that you can write down and let them know that you've read everything, you've asked all your questions, everybody's answered your questions, you're comfortable with what your agreement says, and you're ready to sign up. And they want to know that so that they know that the companies like Clearway are treating you well and making sure that you're comfortable with what you're signing up to. We talked about your discount already, the 20% discount guaranteed every single month as long as you're in the program. And the next thing is the allocation. I didn't say that much about it yet, but what's going to happen when you first go to sign up is you'll give Clearway a copy of your bill for a month. But if you look closely at your bill, it shows your energy usage for the last 12 months. So they can add all those months together and they can see what your annual usage is going to be during the year. And what they want to do is allocate exactly the right number of panels to your subscription so that by the end of 12 months, those panels will produce exactly the same amount of energy that you use. Now, every day, every month, those numbers will not be the same. You will use more sometimes than the panels produce. Many times the panels will produce more than you use. But when it all evens out at the end of the year, you will be getting exactly the amount of power that you use. And that allocation can be changed. If after a few months, you actually are changing your use, you have children that go away to college and you no longer have 2 or 3 extra people in your house using electricity, then maybe your allocation will be reduced. And you can go to Clearway, show them your new bill that shows that trend, and they can take a few panels off of your subscription so that you're not paying for more energy than you need. On the other hand, if you go and buy an electric car or something like that, and you need more power, and you explain that to Clearway, show them the new bill that shows this trend towards more use, they can add panels to your subscription. And it's no additional cost to you. It's just to make sure that your allocation is accurate, so that after 12 months every year, all the usage that you need is provided by the panels that are in your subscription. The contract is a 20-year contract, and sometimes people get a little bit concerned about that when they see that number. But in truth, the 20 years of the contract is not something that you're bound to for 20 years. It's really something that you sign that says it's a 20-year contract, and for your benefit, really more than anything else, Clearway is bound for that period of time to give you a guaranteed 20% discount every single month on your monthly invoice. So it's really more of a protection for you. And as far as cancellation goes, guess what? If you sign up between now and the end of the year, well, even if you sign up, whenever you sign up, you can cancel anytime you want. If you sign up between now and the end of the year, there is never going to be any cancellation fee of any kind. And I'll describe that using the next slide, which gives you some examples of what might happen to you after you've signed up for community solar. For example, you might be in a condominium or a house now, and you might move. If you move, but you stay inside the same ComEd service area, the same grid that John was talking about, then you actually don't cancel your contract at all. You simply take it with you and you change the address. Clearway will just change where they're sending the bills to, and it's the same contract. However, if you were to move outside of the ComEd service area, then you'd be dealing with another utility. And then you'd need to cancel the contract for that purpose, but you just need to give Clearway notice of that, and they'll cancel the contract, and there wouldn't be any fee for that as well. And there are some other time periods in the contract that say if you cancel at different times, there wouldn't be a fee. Under normal circumstances, there would be a cancellation fee of $200, and that's written in the contract. But now, between now and the end of the year, December 31st, if you sign up, there will never, ever be a cancellation fee for you, no matter what the reason is for your cancellation. Now, one thing that I would notice is that when you look at the contract, when you go to sign up, the contract will still say cancellation fee of $200, but that cancellation fee is currently being waived, and you will get an email from Clearway to add to that contract that says, don't worry, if you ever cancel, that fee is waived. You will never have to pay that $200. But sometimes there's confusion, but you don't have to worry about that. So as I mentioned before, the production from your panels that are allocated to you varies from time to time. Every month is a little different, just like your use is a little different. So the Clearway bill that you're going to get every month varies according to the amount of power that is produced. It's going to be 80% of the power that's produced in dollars that ComEd calculates are the value of that power. So you'll see it go up and down, but it's really based directly on the power coming from your panels, and you'll always save 20%. When your panels produce more than what you're using, what happens then? Well, Clearway is going to bill you for all of that power that's produced at the 80% rate, the 20% discount. And if it's more than what you need, ComEd will save that extra credit, and they'll roll it over to the next month, or the next month, or the next month. Whenever the month happens when your panels produce less than what you use, ComEd will apply that credit to that month, and you've already paid for it, so you don't have to pay for it again. So you have this rollover, and again, eventually across 12 months, it all evens out so that your credits will fill in for the time when you don't have enough power, and it will all come out to be the same. Finally, it's important to note that the Clearway guarantee of 20% discount is tied directly to the ComEd default rate, or the regular rate that you would be on as a residential customer. It's easy to, you're on that default rate if you haven't joined any special programs. But if you are on a special program, for example, in Evanston, if you're on the aggregation program, or if you signed yourself up to an alternative supplier, ComEd and Clearway have a situation. They have an agreement about how your solar power will be valued. And in those other kinds of programs, there's no telling what the solar power will be valued at. So Clearway can't guarantee the 20% discount. So what we recommend is that before the system gets turned on, that is not today, not the day you sign up, but later on when the system is actually energized for you, you switch to the ComEd default rate, and then you can be guaranteed that 20% discount. So what about the process? Here's how you sign up. And you don't have to write anything down, because Emily will be putting that website into the chat box and also in an email that will follow our presentation. And you will go to that website and you will see a form that I'll show you in a minute, and you will make sure that you use the promo code trajectory and to make sure that you get the waiver of the 20% of the cancellation fee. There will be a form that you fill out with your information. And after you fill out that form and you verify your email, which happens immediately after that, Clearway agents will join you, start sending you emails and request things. For example, your utility bill. They'll need to see your utility bill so that they can do the allocation process that I described. So when you go to sign up, you want to make sure you have a digital copy of your utility bill with you. The next step after looking at your utility bill is for Clearway to do a soft credit check. So they will just ask a couple of more questions to make sure they have enough information about you to call the credit company, Experian in this case, to get your credit score, and then that they can check that box. That'll be the next step of approval. And finally, after that happens, they will send you a copy of the agreement itself, which is several pages. And it asks you online, you can do it all online if you want. You can just click boxes. After you read the provisions and you're comfortable, sign your name, sign your initials. There are 6 or 8 places where you have to do that. And then there is actually an attachment, which is the disclosure form that I mentioned. And you need to also sign the disclosure form. And I want to note about this disclosure form that there at the top of the disclosure form, it has your name on it, and it has the provisions like your allocation, how many panels you're going to be allocated, and things like that that relate specifically to you. There will also be the name of your site that you're associated with. So for example, when John signed up, he had his name at the top of the disclosure form, and then there was the word or the name Kish. Kish, so he was a little bit confused because it said Mr. Karshan Kish, and your name will appear that way, and it's a little bit confusing, but it's really telling you the name of the site that you're associated with. So don't worry about that. If you see a name that you've never heard of before, it's just the name of the place that you're going to be put on. Now here's a screenshot of the first website that you will go to when you go to sign up. It's the Clearway Signup site, and you'll scroll down on this page until you see this part of the page, and we recommend that you click on that middle blue button that says Enroll Online. And that way you'll be doing the sign up process all on your own. You don't need anyone else to be setting up schedule appointments with you or anything like that. If you feel like you need help, you can call me and I can help you do this. If you really want to, you can call a Clearway person and they can help you as well. If you click the Enroll Online box, this is what you'll see next. And it's a very simple form. This just shows you how easy this is. You fill out this very small form. You've got the promo code there on the bottom right, trajectory, and you'll click submit. And that starts the process. You'll get this email verification request, and then the request from Clearway will come to upload your utility bill, which is the next slide. It shows you how you can do that in a couple of ways. You can either drag your utility bill onto that site on the left, or you can send them an email and attach the utility bill to the email. They'll look at your bill, they'll click that box, check that box, say you're okay with that. Then they'll send you the emails that relate to the disclosure form and the cancellation of the fee, the waiver of the cancellation fee. These are emails that you're likely to get and see. They're all part of just assuring you that all these pieces are in place and you're being approved. And so that's really it. They will then send you the agreement itself, as I said before. But here again are the takeaways that we want you to see. Just to remind you, supporting new solar energy, new jobs, no upfront costs to you. Anyone can do this. You get the guaranteed savings, and it's a breeze to subscribe. It's the easiest thing in the world to do. It takes just a few minutes. So hopefully that's an easy thing to understand all of that. But if you have any questions at all, this is my personal information, contact information, which you will see not only here, but in the chat box and in emails following up on this webinar. So you don't have to write any of it down. You can always come to me and get answers to your questions.
Awesome. Well, Hal, Rachel and I have been watching the chat box. We'll answer a few of those questions. And I'll just say, Rachel's a subscriber. I'm a Community Solar subscriber. I think it took me less time to subscribe than this webinar took. I found it really easy. One question we got is, some of you, whether you're in Evanston or other places, you may have an alternate supplier. That just means here in Illinois, it means someone else is purchasing energy that go through those high voltage lines in the back. You will want to just switch back to ComEd before you become a Community Solar subscriber. When I did that, it took one simple email. I emailed customer service at the company I had as a supplier, and they switched me back to ComEd so that I could become a Community Solar subscriber. One question we got is, what you sign up for a certain amount of panels out here. We look at your last year's bill and look at how much electricity you produced. We know that each one of these panels will produce about 300 kilowatt hours over the course of the year. So a typical home, ranch home with some kids in it using lots of electricity, like my home, you might have like half of one of these rows here reserved for you, actually a little less panels. And there may be months where it's sunny in July that these panels are actually producing more kilowatt hours in that month than you use. Those credits just roll over onto your bill for the next month. Typically in Illinois, we actually use more energy in the summer. So the higher production in the summer, that curve actually matches your use curve. But as Hal said, we make sure to sign you up for as much as you need and the credits roll over. If you do start using more or less electricity, you can change how many of these panels are assigned to you in the future. Another advantage over community solar over rooftop. A question we often get is, what if it's cloudy? Well, it's still producing energy out here. What if it snows? As you can imagine, with these panels on a tracker system, as they're turning during the day, that snow melts right off and is never on really for more than a few hours. If that isn't the case, maintenance crews come out here and clean off the snow. And as a Community Solar subscriber, what you're seeing on your bill is the total credits that came in over the course of a month. Rachel, are there other questions that you sometimes get from folks who are interested in Community Solar?
I feel like that aggregation one was the big one, which we've hit a couple of times. So I think we're good.
Excellent. All right. And I think, we've got a great point from Beth. Here in Illinois, we hear about so many different energy offers. I think, as Hal explained, a big benefit of Community Solar is that this is really quite simple. You sign up, you don't have to do anything on your roof. You can change your amount in the future, but you know that you're going to be saving every single month. There's no fluctuation in that. It's really locking down that price. Emily, what other questions are we seeing?
Good question, John. Seeing some stuff about the credit check. There is a soft credit check. It will not affect your credit score, however, so I hope that is helpful, but you do have to, that is currently in place, and I'm not sure if that was the question, if that's going to change. I'm not sure, but as of right now, that's what is in place with Clearway. I don't see any other questions, but feel free to write anything as we're finishing up here in case you have any questions from anything that you've seen today.
And Emily can put the link that you can use in the chat box. It really is a simple process to become a subscriber. And if you have any questions, Hal is here to answer them. Beth or Jenny, any other? We have a great question from Corey, accommodations for low and moderate income customers. That is a fantastic part of the program here in Illinois. Part of the funding for all of these solar projects is for a program called Illinois Solar for All. And our company, Trajectory, is working on community solar projects right in the area, specifically part of that program. About 10 miles away in the middle of Rockford, off in that direction, is a project called Rockford Solar, where the land is actually on an old closed landfill that the city owned. The city of Rockford will be receiving the rent payment for that project. And the subscribers for that project will actually be low and moderate income residents of the Rockford Housing Authority. So it's really exciting that we have that as an aspect here in Illinois. And even for, as Rachel and I were talking about, for these regular community solar projects, the fact that you can be a renter, you don't have to own your own home, you can cancel anytime, there's no upfront cost, really does make solar accessible for everyone.
And it reduces your bill.
And yep, and no upfront cost, and you'll see savings right away.
I've also pointed out, just as a reminder, to look for at our, and you will get a follow-up email after this today in case you happen to have any other questions, but I will be posting this recording after today to the website as well in case you want to view it again or to see people. It's trajectoryenergy.com/community solar. It will be in the follow-up email, but I also did just post it in the chat box as well.
Any other questions from folks on how the actual panels work? Let's see, I talked about snow. Most of you probably heard that there'll be a pollinator-friendly ground cover here after the system's done. One thing I like to point out, there's actually, it's really environmental friendly. The pilings just go right into the ground. There's no concrete that's placed here. So when this project outlives its useful life, 35 years from now, this will be able to go back into farming if that's what the landowner is interested in. Excellent. Well, any other questions from anyone? This was a really great group today, and
John?
please, yes.
You know, I would maybe just like to see, have you mentioned this is available for small businesses and houses of worship, too, not only residential. There's a few non-residential groups that could get involved as well, right?
I'm so glad you brought that up, Jenny. That's right. So for these projects, as we mentioned, 25% is for Northwestern University. A certain amount of these systems are reserved for larger entities. Northwestern came in and said, we want it all. So it's gone. There isn't any space on these systems for like a factory or a large high school. It's an aspect of these projects that there's a limited amount. What we're now working on are residential subscribers, but as Jenny said, also small businesses. Whether that be, think of like a law office or any other storefront that really doesn't have a roof to put solar on. So many houses of worship, rooftop solar doesn't work well for them. So, you know, a typical church maybe would be subscribing to 2 rows out here in this field. A residential customer might take 1.5 of these, but absolutely, if you have questions about that, you could become a residential subscriber and work with Hal to sign up your church or business as well.
And if I could just add to that, what John just said, if you're a larger subscriber, like a house of worship or a small business that uses 2 or 3 times what a house uses, the 20% discount is the same. And when you say 20% of a larger number, it's a lot more dollars. So for example, you know, a church might save $500 a year, or even $1,000 a year, because their usage is higher. 20% of that larger usage is a bigger number. So it can be financially an interesting, a really good, helpful thing to them, in addition to be something that they want to do to support renewable energy.
And I did want to say hi to Terry Porter, who's watching here today. Terry was one of our earliest subscribers. Terry, I believe some of these panels out here are yours because you got in early, you signed up. You'll be on this first system. And as you can see, on a bright sunny day like this, it'll be producing energy that'll show up on your bill.
All right. Well, it sounds like we've got all the questions answered. Unless anybody has any more, thank you all for being with us today. This is great. We'll be doing more webinars, as Emily mentioned earlier. So if you're interested or you know people who might be interested, we'd love to have you spread the word so that we can get more people to be in the fold and understand it and maybe become subscribers too.
Hal, we did just get one last great question. So as I mentioned, we're here in Boone County. This system is already fully subscribed. For people signing up now, we are subscribing a project that's in DeKalb County, straight west of Chicago, and actually Kankakee. And that is a good example of, you really wouldn't find 15 acres like this that would work for solar in probably Lake or DuPage or certainly Cook County. So places like Kankakee, DeKalb, here in Boone County, Rockford area are where these projects are located. So we really, anyone who's in ComEd territory can sign up to any of these farms. And as they're being built and scheduled to come online, it's a first come, first serve basis, but they will be gone before you know it.
All right. Well, thank you very much. And have a good day, everyone.